All right, we're going to cover the Pittsburgh Steelers 2025 preview, taking a look at Warren Sharp's breakdown of it. We're going to be reacting to it. And, you can check us live at 4:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, where we do this on the daily show, the Sports Morning Espresso Shot. If you're watching the video of this, make sure you smash the like button, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on all these other teams. But we've been covering every team, or we're getting through every team in the NFL. One a day. Today we're on the Pittsburgh Steelers. I thought we did the Steelers already, but apparently not. But here we are. The Pittsburgh Steelers. Mike Tomlin going into his 19th season. Did you guys know Mike Tomlin has never had a losing season? Isn't that crazy? Bet you've never heard that one before. Only goes around every start of the season and end of the season. 8.5 projected win total. I feel like that's just classic Steelers. 8.5 is where you're at. At least the Steelers the last few years. 8.5, and they always find a way to get over that 8.5. Let's take a look at their schedule, though. One thing we like to look at is rest advantage and disadvantages. They've got only 2 games this season where they have rest advantage compared to their opponent, and then 4 games where they have rest disadvantage compared to their opponents, and that's within a 6 week span. That's not good. So net 2 games rest disadvantage, which isn't good, but also your 4 games where you have rest disadvantage comes during a 6 week span. And oh, by the way, 2 of those games happen to be against the Bills and the Ravens. The NFL did the Steelers dirty. They did the Steelers dirty. They got an international game in week 4 against the Vikings. 1 Thursday night game, 2 Sunday night football games, and 1 Monday night football game. Let's take a look at some of the people that they ended up losing. Left tackle Dan Moore, he gone. He went to the Titans. Justin Fields is a Jet. Preston Smith, I think, retired. Russell Wilson went to the Giants. James Daniels, right guard, went to the Dolphins. Larry Ogunjobi went to the Bills. Najee Harris is a Charger now. George Pickens is a Cowboy. Van Jefferson is a Titan. Kyle Allen is a Lion. I didn't realize that. Some players that they acquired over the offseason, of course, they got DK Metcalf in a trade, and then they paid that man. They signed Malik Harrison, Mason Rudolph, Robert Woods. I can't believe Robert Woods is still in the league. That dude was in college when I was in college. Good for him, though. Good for him. And then, obviously, I think this came out before Rodgers officially signed, because I think they finished wrapping up writing this report at the end of June. I can't remember. But Aaron Rodgers is obviously in that mix as well. Players they added through the draft: first round, 21st overall defensive tackle Derek Harmon out of Oregon. That's a big old boy. Third round, they took a running back, Caleb Johnson, out of Iowa. Fourth round, defensive end Jack Sawyer out of Ohio State. Then they took they took a defensive tackle, another defensive tackle, but this one out of Iowa. QB Will Howard. That was an interesting pick from Ohio State. Then a linebacker and quarterback in the 7th round. Did someone say Metcalfburg? What? Patriots and Steelers have to take advantage of 3 buys. Browns times 2. That's not nice, but I'm here for it. That's not nice. We're about to sign Gabe Davis as dirt. I don't know if you should be excited about that, dirt. There's a reason why Gabe Davis is a free agent. But I guess it can't hurt. Just can old man Rodgers get the ball down the field to him? I don't know. Let's see. He says, I'm tempted to give you one sentence on the Steelers. I don't know why they're doing it this way, and I don't know how they're doing it this way. Some teams are truly incompetent and lose games as a result. Some teams are competent and lose games because it's tough to win in the NFL. Some teams are competent and win games because they have the quarterback, head coach, and a play caller to get it done. And then there's the Steelers. Team that, by all accounts, from team building perspective, is relatively incompetent, and yet they transcend every law and principle of proper execution to just keep producing winning seasons. With regard to my question of why and how, let's address the latter first. This one's easy. How are they doing it this way? Simple. Dark arts, black magic, voodoo, perhaps all three. No Brown slander, says Buku. Steelers are just favored in 6 games this season, by the way. That's not good. Steelers have won double-digit games in each of the last 2 seasons, despite leading at halftime in just half of their games. That's a crazy stat. That's never happened before, at least since 2000. Most teams that win double-digit games are good teams, and most teams build leads throughout the game. The Steelers won 10 games last year, despite leading at halftime in just 5 games. Most teams that win 10 games have a decent offense. There have been 61 teams to win 10 or more games in the last 5 seasons. Of the 61 offenses, the Steelers over the last 2 years ranked 59 and 60 in yards per play, 58 and 59 in success rate, 56 and 60 in EPA per play. Yikes. What does that indicate? A team that really shouldn't be in the 10-win conversation in either season. Doing a quick regression analysis on all teams over the last 5 years and comparing the 23-24 Steelers to the league averages. Steelers yards per play stats 5 and 5 would equal to a team that won 6.75 games. So they're winning damn near 3 games or more than 3 games a year that they shouldn't win. Patriot says it's because they got linemen. All right. We get it. So a bunch of these stats are just going to tell you how it doesn't make sense that the Steelers are doing what they're doing, but they're the Steelers, and that's what they do. The Steelers are plus 16 in turnover margin last year. That helps. They were plus 16 in turnover margin. They're now 15 and 6 in one-score games over the last 2 seasons. That also helps. That's 71%. They won the number 3 most one-score games in the NFL, 15, and have the number 3 best win rate over the last 2 seasons. The only 2 teams that were better than them were the Super Bowl champs, the Eagles and the Chiefs. Steelers should be in the Super Bowl. I think that's what he's saying. Steelers, what are you doing? Get to the Super Bowl. Steelers against the spread record was 11 and 6 last season. That's really good. You'll take that. And against the spread as a home favorite, they were 3 and 1. There's nothing about the Steelers statistically over the last 2 seasons that should have them sharing the same air with the Super Bowl champions, be it from a strategic personnel or execution aspect. Dark arts, black magic, voodoo, perhaps all 3. Now the easy part is out of the way. Let's attempt to answer the hard part. Why are they doing it this way? We cannot say this is accidental. Terrible offensive stats in 24, you say? Let's draft 3 defensive players and a running back with our first 4 picks, and that's what they did with 2 defensive linemen and 1 edge rusher. Let's give 4 of 5 contracts and free agencies in excess of $2 million per year to our defenders. And that's what they did with 2 cornerbacks, 1 safety, and 1 linebacker. The Steelers know the offense was terrible last season. Aside from swapping George Pickens for DK Metcalf, are running most of it back. In fairness, the departure of Najee Harris is an addition by subtraction. I don't know, man. That guy, 1,000 yards every year, man. 3 yards at a time, just chugging along. 3 yards at a time all season long to get to 1,000 yards the last 4 seasons. I'm excited to see Jaylen Warren and rookie Caleb Johnson get to work. They'll be running behind extremely young and unproven offensive line. After double dipping on offensive tackles in the first round in 23 and 24, the Steelers O-line is set to start 3 players they drafted in 24, 1 they drafted in 23, and veteran Isaac Sumalo. Okay. The Steelers should have won far fewer games than they did over the last 2 seasons. The number one catalyst of winning is a franchise quarterback. Steelers had a chance to set themselves up for success in the post-Roethlisberger era, but willingly botched it worse than any team in the modern NFL history. They didn't even try. Now they find themselves heading into the season with a 41-year-old Aaron Rodgers at quarterback. Following the 2016 NFL season, 34-year-old Ben Roethlisberger first openly discussed the possibility of retiring. All you got to do is grind 3.5 yards every down. It's just that easy, man. It's just that easy. Just chug right along. Just chug right along. Hold on, we'll come back to that. I want to see what he says about this. After not drafting a quarterback since 2013, Landry Jones in round 4, the Steelers decided in the next draft to take another 4th-round QB, Joshua Dobbs, the Rocket Man. The odds of the 4th-round QB working out becoming a franchise guy are obviously exceedingly low, but the Steelers wanted to make it look like they were finding a replacement for Ben. Following the 2017 season, Roethlisberger discussed the possibility of retiring. Steelers again dabbled in the rookie QB market, selecting Mason Rudolph. Oh my God, I forgot about that. Yeah. Neither Dobbs or Rudolph were viewed as a franchise caliber QB. Roethlisberger decided to up and retire after either season. The Steelers would have been in any kind of position to compete at quarterback on their roster. Okay, we'll come back to that. Ground and pound, hard-nosed football, great defense. Try to stop it, says B-Mac. Atta baby. Here's why you should bet under 8.5 on the Steelers. The Steelers will face the 9th hardest strength of schedule in the league this season. That is a significant change from last year when they faced the 16th hardest schedule of opponents. The AFC North features 2 playoff contenders, the Ravens and the Bengals. I don't think the Bengals are going to be there. Whom they will face twice. They will also face the Lions, Packers, Chargers, and Bills. That's not easy. While the counting stats looked fine for Aaron Rodgers last season, he ranked 27th amongst qualified quarterbacks in EPA per play and was 30th in sacks taken per pressure. Adding DK Metcalf was a good move, but there's nothing behind him on the depth chart with George Pickens now playing in Dallas. Metcalf also struggled somewhat in the offense that asked him to just win down the field last season. Turnovers were a big reason why the Steelers were able to win games last season. They had a plus 16 turnover differential, which ranked 2nd. Pittsburgh forced 22 fumbles. The number is impressive, but also somewhat attributed to turnover luck. It's early. If that luck turns around, fewer turnovers will lead to fewer wins for the Steelers. Why should you bet over 8.5? Well, first off, Mike Tomlin. Well, he has it in the second point here, but Mike Tomlin, one of the best coaches in NFL history, has led the Steelers to 18 straight non-losing seasons. So that's a good start. TJ Watt, Cameron Hayward, Alex Highsmith, and the defensive line are the biggest strength of this team. Highsmith struggled with injuries, missing 6 games last year, but in his 17.5% pressure rate while he was healthy was phenomenal. Watt put together another double-digit sack season, and Hayward recorded tackle on 19.9% of his run defense snaps. 9th among all qualified defensive linemen. This unit will be even stronger in 25 after adding Derek Harmon in the first round. Aaron Rodgers is not the MVP caliber quarterback he was at one point in his career, but he did throw for damn near 3,900 yards and 28 touchdowns last season. Pittsburgh also added DK Metcalf in the mix, hoping he can produce more consistently than the now traded George Pickens. There you go. There's the argument for both sides. Wow. What up, Andrew? How we doing? Just 2 weeks into the 2019 season, 37-year-old Roethlisberger suffered a season-ending elbow injury. Pittsburgh finished 8-8. It was following their Week 2 game that the Steelers made an insane decision. One day after Roethlisberger suffered his elbow injury, sitting at 0-2 and surely set up for a better 2020 draft pick than what they had in years past, the Steelers traded their first-round pick and a fifth-round pick to Miami Dolphins in exchange for Minkah Fitzpatrick, who is now back in Miami. That's crazy. Steelers on the precipice of their highest first-round draft pick in years due to what likely to be their worst record in years, traded away the pick and stuck with 38-year-old QB coming off an injury. That was kind of funny. Yeah, I forgot about that. Look at those charts. Look at those charts. Beautiful charts. Even if the Steelers kept the pick and couldn't trade up for one of the top 3 QBs, they could have drafted Jordan Love, Jalen Hurts. I mean, could have, should have, would have. You never know. No one knew what Jordan Love or Jalen Hurts were going to be. Who knows if that would have worked in Pittsburgh? The bottom line he's saying is that in January of 2017, Roethlisberger began discussing possibility of retirement. During the next 5 years, knowing Roethlisberger would not be around much longer, the Steelers did not spend a single pick on a top 75 QB. Yet here they are. No, not much. Lurking, listening in. I'll appreciate that. Let's see. Will the Steelers win games with Rodgers as starter in 25? Undoubtedly. They won. Well, let's see. Those are all the quarterbacks that they had and then not have a losing season. That is crazy. That is crazy. They're unlikely to win big with Rodgers as a starter in 25, but they're likely to win just enough games to keep them out of the quarterback sweepstakes in 26, which puts them right back where they've been in quarterback limbo. As fans know, the Steelers haven't had a losing season since 2003, best in the NFL. They've made the playoffs 8 times since 2014, which is second best in the NFL. But they don't win. They have the 6th worst playoff record. They're 3-8 in the last 11 games in the playoffs. Not great. Let's see what else we got. Here's the defensive outlook. The Steelers defense is going to be good. Paige says, got to go get things done before the heat sets in. Cheers, y'all. Later, buddy. Have a good day. Thanks for tuning in. Make the playoffs. That's all you got to do. Yeah, but at some point, aren't Steelers fans just going to be like tired of we barely get above 500, we squeak into the playoffs, and we lose in the first round? Doesn't that get old after a while? You know? But you're right. The defense is stacked. TJ Watt and Jalen Ramsey. Yep. Cam Hayward, all these big old boys. Derek Harmon, the new draft pick. Very exciting stuff. Very, very exciting stuff. Look at this. Steelers last season were 7th in third quarter points scored. They scored a lot of points in third quarter. They got a really tough schedule this year, though, and don't get good rest. Let's see. Why are we still talking about Roethlisberger, man? What are we doing? Let's move on. I almost want to become a Steelers fan now. Fair enough. If you told me that Smith, Russell Wilson, first down offense would be worse than Matt Canada, Kenny Pickett first down offense, I wouldn't have believed you in a million years, but it was. Wow. Look at that. Let's just say. If you look at the last page of the chapter, you'll see at the bottom page the efficiency. Okay, I don't care about the efficiency. We get it. I'll take your word for it. Warren Sharp, they weren't that good. They have 10 opening drive touchdowns total. 6 teams have 30-plus opening drive touchdowns. The Giants and Jaguars, 2 of the runts of the NFL. Oh, man. Shots fired. The Giants and the Jaguars, 2 of the runts of the NFL, are tied at 30th with 14 opening drive touchdowns, which is more than the Steelers over the last 100 games. That's crazy. No team has fewer than 14 opening drive touchdowns other than the Steelers. The Steelers are not a good first quarter team, at least for putting up points. Is what they're saying. Oh, now we're going to bash on Rodgers. Let's see. All those quarterbacks average more yards than all these stats than him. By the way, all of them played a tougher schedule of pass events last year than Rodgers. The best way to measure quarterback efficiency is when they are unpressured to get more of an accurate gauge of their performance in bankable situations. So let's compare the Steelers QB room to Aaron Rodgers. Russell Wilson's like one of the best quarterbacks when kept clean. So I'm not surprised by that. I mean, Russell Wilson's up there, top of the ranks. Aaron Rodgers was not. Last year, Rodgers loved getting a ball out quick and underneath. His average air yards completed passes was 4.8. That was tied with Cooper Rush and 2 rookies, Drake May and Caleb Williams. What should you know about Rodgers is that he often is looking to avoid being hit. At the peak of his career, he was holding the ball for 2.8 seconds and averaging 8.7 air yards. These were benchmarks he was hitting in 2016 and 2019, or through 2019. Now, in 3 of his last 4 years, he's averaged less than 2.6 seconds per throw. He has averaged fewer than 7.9 air yards per attempt. Where does his rank? Bottom of the league, like 40th, 49th, and 50 a month out of 51 quarterbacks. The results are that he faces little pressure and absorbs very few quick hits. This helps him avoid sacks, which is a good thing, and is also theoretically can keep an offense on schedule. However, it also limits the upside of deep swings and bigger plays and forces his team to churn out more plays when driving the football. In terms of schedule in 25, teams will be facing, it's not going to be easy. There were 31 different teams to make the playoffs since 2017. There have been 22 teams to make at least 3 playoff games since 2017, but the only team to go winless in at least 3 trips to the playoffs is the Pittsburgh Steelers. They've made the playoffs 5 times since 2017, and they're 0-5. That is not good. That is not good. Fortunately, the way their schedule is set up this year, it's tough to imagine they'll be rolling well enough to end the season to win a playoff game. They play in Ireland in week 4 and have the earliest bye week possible. From week 7, their schedule ranks number 1 most difficult based on opponent and number 3 most difficult based on rest. This sounds similar to last year. That's because it is. Talked all offseason last year how the Steelers had the NFL's number 1 toughest schedule, including the absolute gauntlet from week 11 onward. Of course, the Steelers were sitting at 7-2 in first place in the AFC North before hitting that gauntlet. They went 3-5 the rest of the way, and it was hilarious to me how people blamed Russ for the Steelers losing 4 straight to close the season. That is a good point. They played the Eagles and the Ravens on the road, then the Chiefs to complete the 3 games in 10 days, followed by a narrow 2-point loss to the Bengals in week 18. Those who have studied the schedule in detail knew that no matter who the Steelers had at quarterback, they wouldn't win down the stretch. Well, rinse and repeat in 25. The only difference is that instead of having a nice week 9 bye in the middle of the schedule, it's a month earlier. It starts with a short week road game on Thursday in Cincinnati, week 7. Short week road games are brutal, and this is the first of 2 for the Steelers down the stretch. Then they play week 10 across the country in Los Angeles on Sunday Night Football, meaning a game with a bad body clock for the East Coast Steelers. Week 11, they play the Bengals, who are off a bye. Thus, a 7-day rest disadvantage for Steelers. 2 weeks later, they play the Bills, who are off a mini bye, having played the prior Thursday. Thus, a 3-day rest disadvantage for the Steelers. The very next week, they play the Ravens, who likewise off a mini bye, having played the prior Thursday night game. Thus, another 3-day rest disadvantage for the Steelers. Then in week 16, they play the Detroit on a short week road game with rest disadvantage as Pittsburgh is off a week 15 Monday Night Football game. That is not good. That's a brutal way to run. That is not good. We were talking about that at the beginning of this. That is tough. That's tough for anyone. No. Ooh. Maybe we take the Steelers now and then sell them starting week 7. Maybe week 8. I think they could beat the Bengals. Bengals don't have a defense at all. So old man Rodgers should put up some numbers. Rest will likely be the issue down the stretch there. By late November, mid-December, this team will be dragging, and then they have to play against more rested opponents who just happen to have teams like the Bills, Lions, and Ravens. Yeah, that's not good. That's not good at all. Last year, the Steelers have played 7 games against teams that had a winning record from week 10 onward, most in the NFL. Fortunately, the schedule this year is set up for them to have another brutal close to the season. But this is what the Steelers do. They find a way. They find a way, and they got a Hall of Fame quarterback leading them down the stretch here. What could go wrong? To patchy holes with duct tape, summon magic on defense, and ride the wave just long enough to land squarely in the middle of the NFL's great quarterback purgatory. But the quarterback purgatory is no place to build a future. The Steelers had nearly a decade to plan for life after Roethlisberger and punted every single opportunity. Now they're stuck again, good enough to hover, never bad enough to reset, and always just competent enough to convince themselves they're close. For the Steelers, 25 simply cannot be a few dramatic wins, a few baffling losses, and a playoff spot. That's more of a mirage than momentum. That's what I'm saying. You got to get tired of going into the playoffs and lose. I mean, you haven't won a playoff game since what, 2016? 0-5 since 2017. Team is full of all-stars, feels good. All right. As long as you guys feel good about it. For a franchise with 6 Lombardis and NFL's longest streak without a losing season, the true heartbreaker is no longer missing the playoffs. It's never having a reasonable shot at the postseason run because there isn't a franchise quarterback they believe in. Till the Steelers make finding him their top priority, nothing else matters. I think I agree with that. You know what we need? We need to trade for Burrow. Get Burrow in Pittsburgh. That man's a Steeler. Get him in there. Don't waste Burrow on the Bengals, right? Bengals, trade him to the Steelers. Who do you want? Who do you want? Let's get Burrow in there. Could you imagine a Burrow-led Steeler team? It'd be like night and day what their offense looks like now. There's your 2025 Steelers preview. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Smash the like button, subscribe to the channel. I'll catch you on the next episode.